Loneliness has followed me wherever I've gone for as long as I can remember. It comes and it goes, but it's definitely a recurring theme, which I know a lot of people can relate to. The more in tune we are with our solitude, the more connected we are to essence, source, Mother God. Loneliness is now considered an epidemic in North America and other parts of the world, which is why I wanted to make this video. If you're someone who's experiencing loneliness, I want you to know that you are not alone. I know people say this sometimes. People have definitely said this to me in the past, like, you're not alone. Like, what the fuck does that mean? Here's what it means. You are not alone in your experience of loneliness. This is an epidemic. This is a societal problem. This is a cultural problem. So, first and foremost, you're not alone. I feel like we are all gifted our own special form of suffering. This is mine. This has just been a sidekick through my life. It teaches me so much. And they say, what you resist persists. And this is something that I've absolutely resisted. I've literally moved all over the planet, sometimes with the intent of moving away from loneliness, and yet there it is by my side. Here I am in my new home, and I'm finally willing to look at loneliness. That is the sound of the cat going crazy right here. Magic. He's just being a cat. It's just what he, okay. That's just what's happening. Is now really the time, sir? So I'm here to talk about the hard stuff. I'm here to talk about the vulnerability and the authenticity. I'm here to share some tips after years of resisting this feeling and now finally being willing to look at loneliness straight on. I just like to talk about uncomfortable shit, I guess. If this topic becomes a little too heavy for you, I just want you to focus all of your attention on my bangs, because I tried to cut my bangs again, and as you can tell, I shouldn't be cutting my bangs. So if this just gets heavy or you're feeling sad because this is a really loaded topic, just focus your attention right here. You know, I wanted to keep things really authentic and joyful. So if you needed a good laugh, you can just, yeah, I need help. Let's dive in. Uncomfortable shit. There's a little bit of a taboo around loneliness. There's definitely some shame, right? And the first step to overcoming something, or at least coming to terms with something, is being willing to admit that it exists. So step one to being with loneliness is having a conversation with yourself, being honest with yourself, and really admitting that you are experiencing loneliness. There are many different types of loneliness. There's a longing for partnership, a longing for friends, for a sense of community, for a sense of village. There's loneliness in work or career if you're an entrepreneur or an artist. There are many different types of loneliness, varying degrees, and they're all very layered. I myself have oscillated between many different types of loneliness. I would say that primarily my main form of loneliness comes with my career, being an entrepreneur and being an artist. And when I am single, when I don't have a partner in my life, it definitely is around the longing for partnership and family. Being a woman in my 40s, having decided to live an untraditional life, so I am not married and I do not have children, this can definitely bring up a deep longing, which results in the feeling of loneliness. Here's the bizarre thing about loneliness that kind of gives me some comfort in some weird ways. You know how they say you can still be lonely in a crowded room? The same is true for a partnership, for instance. You can be in a partnership and still be lonely. So as someone who is currently in a single phase of my life, and I have until recently been longing for partnership, this is something that I like to remember. Partnership isn't going to fix the feeling of loneliness. That solution comes from within. We are affected both psychologically and physiologically when we are experiencing loneliness. This means that we actually feel it in our body. When I tune into my body when I'm feeling loneliness, I feel contracted. I kind of feel like a wilted flower, a flower who hasn't been watered, literally drained of my life force energy, which kind of in essence is true. Humans need connection. It's one of our basic fundamental needs, like food, water, air, shelter. A sense of connection and belonging is an integral part of being a human being, unless you're a monk or a hermit. Are there any hermits out there? Are there any monks out there? I don't know why you'd be watching this if you're maybe there's some monks watching YouTube. Guaranteed they still experience loneliness. It's probably just a different way of being with the loneliness. And here's the thing too. I am someone who loves my alone time. I love my alone time. I like to have a lot of fun. I'm very playful. I enjoy my own company. Sometimes I will go so deeply into my work as an artist, as an entrepreneur, that I lose balance. My loneliness is a lot more layered. I'm making it sound pretty simple right now, but that's one aspect of it. I just wanted to reiterate that a lot of people who suffer from loneliness actually really enjoy alone time. And of course, there is a distinction there. Being alone versus being lonely, solitude versus aloneness. There are so many different flavors and layers to this experience. So on a physiological level, loneliness can actually cause health problems. I don't love hearing about this, but apparently being lonely is as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I've seen this stat over and over and over again. And honestly, it's not helpful because when I'm feeling lonely, I'm like, oh God, it's like smoke. I might as well go smoke 15 cigarettes. I think it's important to know how we can be affected by loneliness so that we do find that balance in our lives, but also try not to let that fear weigh on us because that just doesn't even make the situation any better. Feel me? On that note, think about it. Solitary confinement is a form of torture, right? Like put someone on their own, isolated, that is not okay for mental health, right? So we know that it affects our mental health 100%, and also it affects our physical health. So it's really important that we do take action steps to improve our experience with loneliness. Sometimes I get a good balance going and I go through different phases. Right now, I just moved to a new town, so I make sure to go out to a social event at least once a week. These days, it's actually even twice a week. And I make sure to connect with a friend every single day. This is not always the case for me. But if you think about it, people who have families and kids, they are in constant interaction, right? And so although I do oftentimes work on my own, because I am so independent in my work and my career, I do make sure to weave some kind of social time into almost every day at this point. And that doesn't mean it has to be a big, huge thing, but just 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Also, living in a small town helps a lot. People are more friendly here. People look at you in the eye. You can go to the gym, you can go to the coffee shop, and people know your name and they connect with you. Enter the theme song for Cheers here. I think it's Cheers, right? Everyone knows your name. Where everybody knows your name. That is so real. There's like these touchstones, you know, that you can go to throughout your day. Whereas there's that sense of connection. There's that sense of, it really feels like a belonging. It does have that kind of like distant feeling of village life. So that's been really, really helpful for me moving to a small town. On a personal level, I've always been very blessed to have a lot of friends and a lot of different friend groups. And I'm really grateful for the ability to be able to connect with many different types of people. However, the limitation is I never truly felt like I belonged in any particular group. And that has caught up with me in my later years. So I still feel that way. I am a part of many different communities as an environmentalist, as an artist, as a musician, as a content creator, as a coach. There are many different communities that I'm a part of, but because I'm a part of so many different communities, I never really felt this like true sense of deep belonging with any one particular friend group, which sometimes can feel a little bit isolating. I know there are some of you out there who are really suffering from loneliness. Perhaps you feel like you don't even have a single friend in the world. First of all, I just want to say, I love you. I feel you. I'm sorry. Boop. He just wants to be where he's not supposed to go. That's the cat's job. Please don't. Okay. I am currently in the midst of really diving in and finding the beauty and the power of loneliness. I would say the greatest takeaway that I've found of all time is this. I read this somewhere and I'm definitely going to butcher it, but it's something like the more in tune we are with our solitude, the more connected we are to God, essence, source, mother God, whatever you want to call it. When I heard this, there was a sense of like a deep relaxation, almost like it gave meaning or comfort to my loneliness. Like, that explains why I very often choose to be in my solo space. So I think the biggest issue is number one, knowing that loneliness is an indication that something is amiss and it's important to take action steps. So if you're not connected to other people, find online communities, find people with things in common, be of service, volunteer. Volunteering and being of service, that helps a ton. Helping those who may also be suffering from loneliness, elderly, animals at our adoption centers. That's the first part. Make sure you take steps to actually be more connected. I mean, I changed my whole life to create a new infrastructure for myself because Los Angeles was a very lonely culture for me being in the music industry. So here I am. I moved to a small town. I'm right next to my best friend. We're connected by a door, and I can see my friends at the local cafe. And that's what works for me right now. And it wasn't easy to get here. I had to leave everything behind to do a reset. So I'm not saying it's easy to make these changes, but it just starts with one step. Just one step. So what's one step that you can take today to connect? To connect with someone? Say hi to the clerk at the grocery store. Say hi to the check-in person at the gym. Compliment someone. These are all ways that we can take steps to create more connection and belonging. That's the first thing. The second thing is get this shit out of the way. Comparing ourselves to others is never, ever going to be supportive. Any final thoughts? Guys, thanks for sticking around. This was super uncomfortable, and YouTube is new for me, so if this was at all useful to you or inspiring or supportive, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This is a channel all about coming home to belonging. That means caring and loving all of the living beings that we share this planet with and coming home to belonging first and foremost within ourselves. Again, if you are someone who is suffering from really, really intense isolation or loneliness, I'm really going to encourage you to take a little step today. Just reach out to someone, reach out to anyone, give your love away and see what happens. And if nothing else, I love you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.